All right, before we get started, just to confirm that our folks online can hear us. Bob, Bill, Matthew, can you guys, Nell is saying yes, I assume. Bob, I did not hear you. Can you try again?
Yep. Nope. That's affirmative. I hear you.
All right,
I can hear too. Thank you.
great. All right, and I'm moving people over as panelists as they join. You don't have to be if you don't want to be, but it makes it easier to engage with the meeting. I'll just say before you start, because I did not say this, I was supposed to. Has there been anybody to offer to be secretary? Meredith has offered.
Okay.
So she's online.
Meredith. Hi.
And so I don't know if that requires anything before she starts.
Accolades.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seconds. All those in favor?
Yes. Thank you, Meredith. That's
Of course.
So we can talk offline about how much or little you want that to entail, but are you okay taking notes for this meeting?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Tom?
That's it from my end. You guys.
Okay, thank you. Let's call this meeting to order. It's 5:03 p.m. and start with introductions. As always, this time let's give your name and in one word your favorite thing about spring. Think about spring. Spring. Deb, you go first.
I'm Deb. I like the return of color, just,
I'm Peter. I love all the busy activities and as such, I'll be leaving a little early.
These are really good.
So you can remember the right one.
I'm Peter Krebs. I love tolerance. I love the idea of pollen.
the function of it. Natalie Outram, Trust System Council, and I love getting to be outside comfortably.
Kyle Robin, the city's Safe Routes to School coordinator. I like sleeping with the windows open.
What's today's prompt?
Favorite thing about spring.
Oh, in one word.
Okay, Albert Green of Plunge, transportation planner, sunlight.
Get brief then.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tommy Sofranik, bike and pedestrian coordinator, City of Charlottesville. Also sunlight, like to run in the mornings with light.
I'm not running. I like when it's night and it's not dark.
Herb Levy, live in North Downtown. My favorite thing is to pit my shirts against the spring blooms.
Guinevere Higgins, I live in Belmont. I love the way it smells.
James Van Branken and bird watching. Let's go online. Bob, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Well, my name's Bob Holsworth, and I love that it is warm outside, and I only have one layer on when I go biking.
So, Bill Emmer here, and the thing I love about spring is planting more trees to provide Peter with plenty of pollen. So up to like 132 in the backyard this spring on the Willow Mills Walk. Hopefully you guys will get to see him. Anyway, thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Meredith?
Hi, I'm Meredith, and my favorite thing about spring is the smell of honeysuckle and the hummingbirds.
Matthew? Matthew might not be with us at the moment, that's okay. Is there anyone else online?
Yeah, there's, Jen's online, and,
Sorry, I had technical difficulties. My phone wasn't in my hand. Yeah, but my favorite thing, I'm Matthew Dalton, and my favorite thing about spring is warm nights.
Kevin? Oh, it's. Or Nell, sorry, you have your hand up. Or allowed.
I just allowed.
What about Nels with his hand up?
Hey, can you all hear me now?
We can.
Hey, all right. First BPAC meeting, but I'm Kevin. I'm the executive director for Charlottesville Community Bikes. And my computer is so new that this is my first Zoom meeting ever on it. So I had to install everything. So forgive if my video is not on right now. But what I'm most excited about spring, as someone who just came from Florida just over a month ago, is that I can walk outside and pick up strawberries and eat them off the ground.
Nice. Thanks for joining us, Kevin.
In theory.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, go for it.
Nels Okerson. I really enjoyed taking a cold shower, and it feels refreshing after like a hot run. So, also the chat is disabled, and I am unable to turn on my video, so I don't know what to do.
I suspect that's because you're currently an attendee to our webinar. Tommy's been
If I move you over to a panelist and you accept, then you can have more functions to engage.
if you wish to.
Sounds good.
That lock not up, Guinevere. Patrick just,
We're getting more people. Let's give everyone a minute. We've got more people coming in online and coming in the room as well. Okay, everyone's good. Patrick Keys, thank you for joining us. Could you tack on with an introduction with your name and in one word, your favorite thing about spring?
My favorite thing about what?
Spring.
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding you.
not fall, not autumn, not winter, and not summer.
Oh, spring. The season of spring. My name is Patrick Keys. I'm a EVA micromobility coordinator. My favorite thing about spring is the relief from allergies that I get when I take my medication on time. So that's nice.
I think that's everyone online. Feel free to interrupt me if I'm wrong. Josh, could you introduce yourself to the league?
Yeah, where's the mic? That's why I can't hear from home. Hi, I'm Josh. I'm a volunteer with Placeville bike parent, and for old people, I like poison pigeons in the park in the spring. It's a cultural thing. Everyone's here is too young. It's fine.
Poison what?
Poison pigeons in the park.
Poison pigeons in the park?
Yeah, it's a classic Americana thing.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
When the world's all in tune in a spring afternoon, when you're poisoning pigeons in the park.
Yeah, we're the same age. I can tell.
Tom Lear.
That's wonderful. I didn't expect that.
My name is Mike Breezy. I'm the Rose Hill Neighborhood Association Vice President. I'm on the Housing Advisory Committee. I love red buds.
Thank you. Next up, approval of this meeting's agenda and last meeting's minutes. This is your opportunity to complain if you have any complaints. No complaints, excellent. Does anyone have any public comment? This is an opportunity to address the committee. Thank you, Kevin. We have to speak up a little bit in literally speaking, yeah. Does anyone have any public comment for the committee this evening? Okay. Without further ado, let's move on. So the next section, which is questions for staff, we have Tommy and Carl in the room here, and they've provided written staff updates. Thank you very much for that. I hope you've all had a chance to read them if you're interested in them. I know Josh has some questions. Do you want to start us off, Josh?
Yes, I have specific questions and a procedural request, which are sort of the same thing. The request is that, at least when you're reading the notes as a doc on a computer, some items have a link to a public document or spreadsheet. Those are great. Some don't. The ones that don't, I can't always tell what they are about. So quick builds, phase 1, phase 2, multiple word system. That sounds great. I don't know what the list is or what phase 1 or phase 2 is or where they are in the work queue. So question for right now, I want to know what those phases are and when they might get done and where I can find the projects. General request, if it's not a headache, can these reports link to documents where they exist? So Tommy, I might have seen a spreadsheet, but I don't know which list these come from, but where do these come from?
So these come from your all spreadsheet.
That is, which one?
Yeah, so phase 1 is like the first 10 that were created essentially.
But like there are a lot of spreadsheets.
Right.
So
The lists that we're talking about aren't public. They're inter.
Well, is it our list or is it private or is it somehow both?
The list that's referred to on this list with the phases, how we kind of came up with them was we used your list as
I think
reference.
hold on.
Isn't that what we're talking
No.
about?
So this is referring to the VPEX quick build list from like a year ago that was started. So phase 1 is the first one that we entered with Public Works, I think literally in March of last year, maybe. And phase 2 is the ones that got approved over the summer. So each are a group of 10 that were approved. But they're important. To answer your question, Josh, I think for this specific thing, it's pretty easy to like attach a hyperlink to phase 1 and phase 2 that you can reference to understand what's what. But yeah.
So I think I don't know which ones are in which phase, but we've seen a bullet point like this every month for a while. Does Public Works tell you anything about like where these things are in the queue, or because like you did your part like 6+ months ago? I don't know what, if anything, has been built out of this list so far and what we can expect in terms of progress.
I'm trying to so there's it.
Like should I email?
No. So there is an element to that that's not the answer I want to provide, and there's an element that there's a level of frustration that, so I'm trying to articulate things clearly. I've been trying to find out where the movement needs to happen with some of this stuff for a few months now. But that conversation has kind of been put on hold during the winter, especially as we have been talking about the urgent transportation projects. And they have been kind of almost folded into each other, just to one degree or the other. But regardless, the conversation from Public Works has been recently that they need more design on these projects. What that meant was not very clear to me until recently. That design requires someone with above my skill or even like software on my computer. So that then questions, how quick are these quick builds? And that conversation's been had above me about these projects and all of the projects we identified. And it's kind of getting wrapped in, like I said, with the urgent transportation. And if you'll see, and I think Ben's notes, didn't he provide an update kind of where we are with that stuff?
Just that it's a topic, I think. So
Is it a topic on the agenda? I forget.
it's like,
That
it's like 20
It
minutes.
is a topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say let's
So maybe
wrap that into the stick on topic and we can like talk about it under that.
I mean, I also want to say, if we hold off this quick builds, we can take out this bullet, like we can take out several of these bullet points from the reports because they're not truly happening. Or if they're happening under a different rubric. So like,
Well, I would, so. In my world, they're happening. I put a lot of work and discussions and emails, even if you don't see like
No, I
stuff
mean-
on the ground.
we all have, I don't wanna poke people in different departments about progress if that's not where work is happening, right? So like, if you tell me public works is working on this, I'm gonna go talk to them about that. If you tell me they're not working on this, I'll just ask about other topics under the bigger umbrella topic of like urban transportation projects. So like, my question is this a live issue or not? Because if it's not, I won't ask good questions about it. But if it is, we've had projects in the queue for many months with no progress. So like, it sounds like you're saying fold into the bigger conversation, but I read that as this is no longer a queue of work. This is experiment or folding into a different thing now. Like, I don't think I'm gonna hear updates about this as its own item in the foreseeable future, because you're like,
I don't think it's been like, I think it's being formally moved into the urgent transportation project,
so it's
just
just-
because it's the same type of projects, but at the same time, it feels different to me because these are projects that like came and bubbled up from this group specifically, and that's not the case for the other projects.
right, but they're also not going anywhere.
But they are, and we can talk about that under the agenda
They are, but within a
topic.
different heading.
Yeah,
Right, so
Good point.
But nothing has happened since they were entered. Why don't we move on? I know how I interpret this item.
but I guess that's fine, you can, but I guess if I was on this board and I wasn't like an employee, I would like to see that and understand what is happening with that, even if it feels like there isn't any movement on it. I'd like to know that there is no movement on it, essentially, if I was like a citizen and not a staff.
And I do think that one thing we've encouraged staff to do is to kind of have a consistent set of things they report out on, so we can sort of have some sense of what is, and it might be that it's like quick build committee projects, like that is now, like, see this heading. And we can kind of clarify that, but we did sort of ask them to offer consistent headings, if you will, or buckets of activity.
But I would say this, it sounds like the status of this item is, it's now a different item.
Great, yes, maybe. So we can say, let the minutes show the quick builds approach is like now under the safer streets.
Which is also urgent projects.
We will find out.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to that heading yet, Peter.
Do you have any other questions?
I hope a lot of what I would ask will be covered in that 530 item. Let's say no.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions for staff?
I would repeat the same question you already asked for Kyle. Which are the 3 tier 3 projects this summer? Because that's different from the quick build question, right?
What are the 3 tier 3
Yeah, I think
projects?
your thing said you're expecting to do 3 tier 3
Yeah, if I look
projects
at the
this summer.
names of these projects, one of them is at Trailblazer Elementary, it's a sidewalk, it's 3 sidewalk projects. The other one is, these are really obscure, one's in the Greenbrier neighborhood, and it's a piece of sidewalk along, get back to me.
So they're like sidewalk pieces for routes to school.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, so there are 3 projects that are 3 sidewalks that will connect other sidewalks, missing pieces of sidewalk.
So similar thing to before. Tier 3 implies it, is tiers from like the side priority list or a different thing?
This is from the Safe Routes to School
Okay.
project list.
Is that a list I can look at, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's on the website, it's on the school website, it's a public facing list.
okay. Can we just drop a link into the minutes as well, so we don't need to go Google it.
Yeah,
Like,
I have the link. But are they, I can't remember, are they separated into tiers in that list?
I believe so, on the public facing one, yep.
I had another question for Kyle. Since that was such a good one. For the summit permanent marking or permanent, making the pilot permanent. That means actually putting in markings and signs and fixing things, not just leaving what's there permanently, right?
You mean the infrastructure or the pattern?
Yes,
You have to be more specific.
like. What's there is not a bike lane, it's just a bunch of flex posts offset from the curb with no markings. So will there be like pavement markings indicating like this is the bike lane, this is the buffer, this is where you park? Or is it just still gonna be flex posts set away?
The
from
idea is it won't be flex post, it'll be paint.
Oh, interesting. So that's not making what is there permanent, that's making. Something.
The pattern that is there,
Pattern. Okay.
yes.
That's a. I would argue that's a different thing that will need to be studied again, because if they're not vertical devices, people are more likely to park in the bike lane, but we will see.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, shall we move on to the 5:30 item, quick builds and urgent transportation projects? Lucky.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess so is the crux of the question, or should I give an overview of where we just are on things?
I think that's a good idea.
So, as context, this all really stemmed, the urgent transportation project really stemmed out of the fatality on Elliott Avenue in October. Council asked staff to come up with a list of projects that was similar to Elliott to try to make our community safer. Management said that they had some money to throw at these projects. So over the past few months, Kyle, Ben, myself, Brennan, the traffic engineer, and once he arrived, Caleb, the new traffic engineer, compiled a pretty extensive list. So, it started with just looking at like places just like Elliott. I think Kyle too had a hard time just looking at places like that and needed to look at the whole city to have a better context of what is what. And as we started exploring it more and more, Ben asked BPAC for specific projects that you all deemed just similar, and things were broken up into a singleized, unsignalized, and traffic calming type project. And then we listed, I think we'll put our list here shortly. What, 60 some odd projects, Kyle? That sound about right? Maybe more than that.
Yeah, you combine all three categories.
And then staff kind of ranked them. We got word of how much money we had, and then we had to kind of go back and readjust based on cost estimates. And now Ben is working with the fire department to kind of make sure that the fire department is okay with these projects moving forward. And I know Ben had a meeting last week with Joe, and I think it sounds like they had a couple just questions about some of the designs. My understanding, Joe Phillips is with the fire department. In the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth, I guess the fire department has approval over things to this matter, traffic calming specifically. So the conversation, once we kind of concluded with the list, was like, well, who's going to manage these projects? And think it's fair to say that Public Works started installing them, because you can see a couple out there now in the wild. And they kind of pumped the brakes when we realized we hadn't gotten approval from the fire department. So we're waiting to fully get that recognized, and now Ben's gonna go in front of council with the list on the 19th, is from what I understand. And present that list and get the money appropriated for these projects. So yeah, that's where we are on that.
That was helpful, thank you, so. Things are moving soon, it sounds like we'll see the list. When the materials are posted for that May 19th meeting.
And I think maybe another thing, James, to keep in mind is like, this list is also an opportunity for us to try different techniques in different places. So the list does call for like speed tables, mini roundabouts, in addition to rapid flashing beacons, bump outs like we've seen already.
Stop signs on slip lanes.
Stop signs on slip
Closing
lanes.
I appreciate it.
And just to clarify what I think you said to Josh, is that the projects we were working on as part of the Quick Build subcommittee that we kind of passed out to you, and were they included fully into the long list? Did they?
They're not currently on that list. They are on the Public Works marking crew assignments, they're in the queue for Public Works. They are not on this list. So
they won't show up.
And I personally don't want them to show up, because that is two different funds. Like if we start putting those 20 projects on this list, that just takes away from these funds that Public Works has already approved to do.
That's important.
So there was a little bit of overlap, but not much between those two lists.
Will one be prioritized over the other? Presumably this new list will also.
We have a meeting next week. I think it's next week. I think that management is trying to figure out how to move these projects forward. And I'm hopeful, and I know there's been conversations without me, especially since I haven't been in town the past few days, about how to manage these projects moving forward between us and Public Works but yeah, we can't say your question again.
I wondered if this new list of projects will eventually join the Public Works queue, and if so, do they just?
They will join the Public Works queue, yeah, they will be, everything will be, all this stuff that it gets approved by the fire department and that we have, brought to council will get put in the same queue for Public Works. And there is no like prioritization between BPAC or the urgent transfer, they're just in the queue.
It's just kind of.
Right, depending on their priorities on timing,
Yeah,
crew availability.
my understanding is that once they're in their queue, they're in the queue.
Okay.
They're not, they might be in the queue and like these were entered, back in the first phase of BPAC, quick bills were entered a year ago, so maybe we'll try to tackle it sooner rather than, I can ask that question.
Okay.
That seems like a pretty easy question to ask,
But
and should be.
But these are all Public Works projects, like the installation of rapid flashing beacons or speed tables.
Correct.
That Public Works will do, that's not a contractor.
Correct.
Okay. Or does it
Well,
get entered into Public Works either way?
I mean, I don't, well, there might. The actual installation of the beacons and the speed tables, we haven't been told.
I think the
If that's gonna
beacons,
be a
yes,
contractor or
because
not.
we've done that in-house. I think the speed tables we had never done before, and that might be a question just to confirm.
And there's also like, I mean, with the way that the cube works is like. There's really not a set algorithm of how, of when things get done, if it's chronological or if it's, geographical or something like that. I mean, like you said, it's based upon, you know, crew availability, the time of year, what's going on, what is in stock, you know, how much paint we have, how much. flex
We do have a
posts.
lot of flex posts right now. They stocked up the past like 6 months on flex
Right,
posts.
so sometimes they'll just go hard on flex posts for a while and knock those out, or if it's geographical and there's a clump of things from 4 different lists that are in the same neighborhood, they might do that, and it's just. It's kind of in their building, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'd just like to add a little bit more, like, the conversation about how much design work needs to be happening on these projects is still unclear to me. I understand what Public Works says they need. And it's unclear to me who's gonna be doing these designs. And how much of these designs maybe they can do in the field like they had done traditionally? Cause they have done a lot of these projects, like the ones that were installed last week. You know, just in the fly, if you will.
So I want to ask about that, because I saw you all on your staff ride by the flex post by Forest Hills Park. Those were great. Oh yeah, I have pictures of come by sometime. And I assume you all didn't design them or do compact design because I think we were all surprised to see those projects built, which implies that maybe it's not consultation, but they look great. I couldn't listen to a complaint about them. If they can just do stuff in the field, like, and it's fast, can we do more of that? Like, do we need design here?
That's the question, Joss. And to get at the crux of it, I think the city needs to define what our quick build program is and what that looks like and have a definitive, like, this is what this program is. And then everything else, whether we call it urgent transportation or BPAC quick builds, whatever it is, lives under this city of Charlottesville defined program. And we sat in this room in November and I kind of thought we had defined it. And it doesn't seem like it's totally clear.
We lost video.
Oh,
You just need to click the video.
where am I?
Down here, the video, like your off video, there you go.
Do you mind also changing to see the panelists in case anyone has that?
Yeah, so I thought we had a, we were going towards a defined, definition of what the city of Charlottesville's, quick build project was. I thought I heard a good one. But I think we need to like get some clarity on that.
Maybe like a low no build kind of thing, low plan, no plan.
Yeah, basically.
Right, we're getting closer to doing more of that every day, and it takes people to actually do it. So Public Works is hiring people who they're in the process of hiring a concrete crew who can do that. Right, so we can do more and more in-house. So the idea is that we become more self-sufficient and efficient with projects like this, so we don't have to outsource piles of design and have it take months and months and months or years to do. So we're moving in that direction where we can do more of that in-house.
Well, a good example of a county that does it really well is Henrico County, because they have their own Quick Works and they've had it for the last 3 years. And they've done it, so they have like a very robust, low, no plan process where they have all their in-house engineers, in-house crews. People can go out there and be like, we need to build a sidewalk, we need to build like, curb cuts, whatever, and they can just like, just paper draw it out quickly and just go at the next week and just build it, because they have that built up.
I mean, because a lot of what we want is, I don't know what it means technically, but like, low planning sounds right. Like, I don't imagine was there an engineer who came out to do a site visit of the park? It looks like someone painted some lines down and said, put posts here, and they were there.
That was an engineer.
It was,
Yeah.
okay, so they like come out and do that?
Yeah,
You have to be.
Okay, like, it seemed to go fast from my perspective, like was it not fast for real?
It was fast.
No, that part
Because it
was
was
an
all-
example of what we want.
Right.
It's
That's what
so,
we're working
but
towards.
to be perfectly blunt, they got pressure, they initially got a lot of pressure to go do stuff real quickly, and then they were like told to pump the brakes. Because we
Okay.
hadn't yet gotten approval from fire, so like,
So does fire need to approve every project, or can fire say, this roundabout's cool with us, go build 100 of them.
We're trying to use this as an example of how to get to the latter, what you just said, which is like, they haven't seen what a mini roundabout looks like, so once they see it. And see how we use it in the context, they can then approve it for future use within the city.
Right.
And once you standardize as well, it's also easier.
Right.
We, the run that we build, we just order 8 them.
So I think the idea of like, low plan makes a lot of sense for me, and that's kind of what I've been asking for. We have a new traffic engineer who's new to the city, new to like being a traffic engineer, like he works in design for a consultant and designed a lot of great stuff, from what I understand. But this is a new role, new city for him, so he's learning how we work and I think a lot of these projects were punted until he started. So they're kind of like, we'll wait till Caleb starts and then we'll get the ball rolling. And now that he starts, he's kind of like, whoa, but what's going on here? I need to see more. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I will say that our office did try to get another employee to be a designer. I think that was more about like sidewalk design, like doing more in-house like concrete type projects. But like once this need started bubbling up for more design for these type of projects, it shows the need for having that skill within this department in neighborhood development services.
And this is how we're doing on the Safe Routes 2 or 3 projects that are coming up in last year's round and this round. So all the sidewalks and all the design, everything it'll all be taken care of in-house. Concrete would be poured by in-house crew and all that.
Yeah, and I think some of the people on this call and in this group already knows this, but like design means like not just sitting down and like designing like what we think is cool and what would be good for a bicyclist or pedestrian, but design meaning like that fits with NUTTD and fits with all like the federal guidelines and so on and so forth, right? So and that fits with our standards and design manual, which stormwater
utilities
and specifically fits with like fire, like turning radius. Like so at Forest, Hills, like they had to keep that in mind when they're designing that different when they were teeing up that intersection.
But Forest Hills got done quickly, one, because we did it in-house. Everybody worked for the city, and also there was a directive from the city manager's office for them to do that quickly. So we need that too.
Okay.
So it shows it can happen.
We can have the resources all we want,
Right.
but the people calling the shots, we need them.
I mean, to be blunt, right? What I want to know is like, who can make the thing happen? And so if the question is, how do I get Sam to ask for more of those projects? Like if that's the key thing. Okay, like, because that worked, again, from my perspective as a resident, it's great. So maybe my goal is to have Sam ask for a lot of those, because it's just a question of like,
Totally.
like as an outsider, things are
Well, go ahead, Josh.
Go ahead.
Well, what I was gonna say is, so like, I would wait to like ask for that now, because we've got like $500,000 that we're about to put out on the streets. And then we're about to ask everybody their feedback on, that's gonna be part of this, is like, there's gonna be yard signs with QR codes and a survey that put up, like, what do you think? How did this play out? So like, you might wanna like start talking with your neighbors about like making sure they understand why these flex posts were put up in the way that they were. So that everyone who's answering the survey understands the concept behind these projects. You know what I mean? And so that we can then get more out onto the roads and turn this up into concrete one day and all of that.
Right, what you're saying is the urgent transportation things.
Yeah.
And they already have that behind it, so there's no need. They already have the city already has the directive from the city manager's office to do those things as soon as
Okay.
possible.
So, and I'm sorry, just to not follow everything, what bucket of work did the Northeast Park and Forest Hills Park projects come from? Is it urgent projects or a different?
Northeast Park and Forest, was there a third project?
Just those two.
That's from urgent transportation project, that's from the urgent.
Okay.
It's a $500,000 Yeah.
So those are the things that are going to council.
Correct.
Um,
And a lot of them came from the list we presented back to you in December.
Some of the ones that you presented back to us in December are on that list for sure. I think there was 10 that you gave us, right?
We gave you many more than
you asked
10.
for 10 and then Ben ended up saying just
Yeah.
give us all.
We have like, well, we have 12 traffic calming locations, then there's like the intersection locations that are unsignalized or mid-block, we've had
Yeah,
a
like,
bunch of those.
yeah, there was, I mean, when because we were working with all that feedback that we got from y'all, and in the middle of doing all that, then urgent transportation, like we just found out, like the city manager's office was like, we're doing this now. We're like, what? Okay. And so there was a lot of those projects and those intersections and places that y'all had pointed out that got put into urgent transportation, because if we didn't have that from you, they would have been on there anyway.
Right.
So they kind of qualified.
So, yeah, there was something else I was gonna say about that. I can't remember how many. I think we have a spreadsheet that like says where the project ideas come from, so we can like go through. But I mapped them all to get an idea of like where these projects are and how many like neighborhoods are getting X and so on and so forth. So from me looking at it, it looks pretty well representative throughout the city, if that makes sense.
But I wanna underline what you said, Tommy, about the opportunity for people to provide survey feedback and for us on VPAC to make sure that we are amplifying that to people who are not on VPAC. That's like it's a crucial role for us to play.
So I think maybe the most important kind of feedback that you could get about projects is people who like past my neighborhood and say, I want that thing, in my neighborhood. For once, my neighbors have no complaints about this project, and they usually are pretty complaining. And I think the question is gonna be, if somebody wants that same thing, where's the intersection? Like they put it on my C-bill. I don't know if anybody believes my C-bill works. Like, there's just, I'm sure you'll flood with requests and everything.
Works for potholes.
Does it? Okay. For traffic calming?
I will say Caleb, the new traffic engineer, has recently said he wants you to use my C-bill for traffic calming.
So if I have like
stuff.
parents at school talking as we do about flex posts, I can tell them, if you want a thing like what you can see on Shamrock and Cradle Ridge or Forest Hill and Forest Ridge, you ask for that thing, you say like, I want flex post curb extensions like here, but I want it there. And that's the place to ask for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all the app is email triage, so you don't
Right.
have to just like look up somebody's email address on the website somewhere and then figure out which person, it just,
Right, but
it
like-
goes to the correct person that.
It'll go to Caleb then, if it's more traffic calming. Okay.
Yeah, I think, I'm pretty sure that's I'm pretty sure he gets it.
I've seen he responds.
Okay. Yeah, I would, yeah,
Logistical question, if it's going to council on May 19th, maybe a question for Natalie, when the materials get posted online.
The Wednesday before.
The email alerts too.
Yeah.
But one of the minutes, you can subscribe to email alerts for council materials and see them when they are posted.
They get sent to us at the exact same time they get sent to everybody else.
yeah, so I'm looking at our list here, Guinevere, and yeah, Ben has like a separate column that just says BPAC, so it's pretty easy to like see which ones are coming from BPAC.
I want to ask a question, but after talking arguably too much, does anybody want to ask questions about this topic?
I have a comment, but I've also been commenting. My comment is just
Meetings
quick.
for talking.
Meetings are for talking. Quick is good, but we don't want to be too quick that we're not good. Next door blew up about the Hillcrest sidewalk being poured and then like destroyed because it was wrong. I don't know what that was about. Sheridan looks fine to me, except there's one little piece of the flex post that should be white instead of yellow, if you're really being an MUTCD perfectionist, that probably is not gonna matter. I'm just saying fast is good, but we do want a little bit of like, make sure it's
Oversight.
correct. Or at least
Yeah.
easy to tweak.
Well, so you
But
mentioned.
that's the other thing about pilot
Yeah,
projects should be able to be adjusted. If you put it in and then fire trucks are running over it, you're like, oh, we should move this one back to.
Well, that's why I don't want to bog down too much of the process for posts, because
Right,
we can just move them.
they're like meant to be hit. It's
Well,
data.
But like, if something is
If we
not
can
quite
be sure we're
perfect.
going back in.
What's that?
That's what I fear is the city puts the flex posts in and there's no way to go change it. Because we're on to the next one. We're on to the next quick build. We can't.
Yeah, no,
continue
that's
this
not
in-
what I've observed at Summit, like
Okay.
they moved, right? I mean, I feel like the posts got moved over
The process
3
of,
feet when they got needed to and
yeah,
stuff like
the
that.
process of maintenance or adjustment is different than like moving on to installer stuff.
Part of this also is going back to the defining what a quick build program is. And I know it's been a while since Ben has brought this up, but I know part of it is inventory assessment and tracking like how long this project has been in place. Was it effective and can it move into a more permanent form? Right, so that's part of this as well.
Okay, I do want to ask, I want to repeat a question. I think one of you asked like 9 months ago. And it's about how we do all our prioritizing projects for this urgent list, because I think you mentioned you can't fund maybe everything that you want to build. When we had that fatal crash in Elliott last year, I remember one of you wanted to orient us to, do we care more about neighborhood improvements, or do we care more about the roads where people are going to die, right? Because I don't want to jinx it. I don't think people are dying by Forest Hills Park. People are dying or have died on Elliott, right? On the bigger, wider roads. If you have to cut projects for funding reasons or time reasons, or put them lower in the queue, is there a feeling about what kinds of roads or intersections are the most important to staff in this process?
Yeah, so every staff member got an opportunity to vote and on what, 5 to 1 and rank the projects. So based on that number, we came up with like the ones that like met the most priority.
But like, is there a rubric, or is it just everyone votes based on their gut?
It's not gut. I've been in this job for almost 2 years, and all I've had the past 2 years is the community telling me what projects are important to them. So it's coming built out. A lot of that, it's coming from my C-bill comment. So a lot of the spreadsheet here has, this comment has come with X number of my C-bill, requests and so on and so forth. But there's not a rubric other than these projects were ranked by staff based on their expertise and other variables like, oh, this is already on the sidewalk priority list. So we're hoping to move forward with changing the safety of this corridor with that project, or this project is on, a VDOT smart scale project, so they're trying to change it based on that, whatever. But that's how we came to, and like I said before, kind of making sure that these projects are spread out throughout the entire community. But it's pretty easy, in my opinion, to find the projects that are going to have the biggest impact based on staff's expertise, to be honest with you.
There's also data, we made a point to, everybody who's involved in transportation, had a vote, basically, and we wanted, me to come from my side of things, from the school side of things, Tommy with bike ped and the engineers with their data and their standards. And then we wanted everybody to have their own perspectives. and then rank, and then list everything, rank it. And we had 1,000 meetings where we went line item by line item. We spent an hour talking about 4 projects. And why did you rank it this way? Why did you rank it this way? Let's look at every perspective that we can. And I'd say at least half the time in those meetings talking about those projects, people would change their rankings. You know, based off of what they heard from other people. Why is this important? What do you know? Like, what does the data say? Also, like, what is the community saying over here? Like, you have all this community feedback, like that's what we need. So there wasn't like a set formula for like, you know, data times number of comments equals important, you know, or anything like that. So, I mean, that's, you kind of get into like a really kind of dangerous AI-ish kind of zone, you know, that way. So we relied on numbers, also feedback, also this feedback, and then also expertise and all that. So you know, when we look at the list that we came up with, even the list that was kind of approved, once we got a number of how much we had, it's all the high scorers. It's not just what can we get done quickly or what is the easiest to do. It's the most important. And I mean, that's besides the point to your question. But your question was, how do we come up with the most important ones? And it really is just this incredibly long process that we tried to fast track as much as we could with data, feedback, expertise, and perspectives.
Working in any landscape is, you can't have a rubric that's final because every site, every piece of landscape is unique.
Yeah.
But what might be helpful though is if there's a notation, I mean, there's got to be some kind of paper trail or meeting minutes, make a note about what jumped about such and such project.
We have all those notes in the projects on our spreadsheet.
Yeah,
Why it is the way it is.
Yeah, that's super important. So because like we, the government, think it's important, that's what we can have. So yeah,
Sounds really robust. So yeah, thank you for explaining that. I see that Jen has her hand up. Jen, what's up?
And I just wanted to jump in on that rubric comment because I very much appreciate how vigilant and thorough y'all were about incorporating all those voices, but it does seem like for a public facing justification and to speed up the process there, and maybe it's a project even that BPAC takes on, but there should be some rubric that that allows the framework of ranking to begin so that you can speed that along, because opinions do change as more knowledge comes in and people do learn more, but you can really distill and filter that down. And then when folks come to you and say, how did that get chosen as a priority, you don't have to say, well, 8,000 meetings and we spent 6 months talking and it was about the emotions it brought up and what the people said. You can easily point to that rubric and said it scored the highest in this quadrant, so we moved it forward first. And then you leave the legacy behind for everybody else who takes this task on to have a starting point, so someone new could come to Charlottesville and still be a decision maker because at least they have a guide. So that's just me nerding out on like process and criteria for justifying, though you probably ended up in the same place that rubric would. I'm just wondering if it could have saved a lot of time.
I would agree that would be helpful. I think we didn't have time.
Well, no, I don't think that was it. I think that I normally I think we learned a lot through this process. I think that like there's could be a rubric made after going through this process now to might set us up better for future. I don't think going through this process, like I said earlier, we expected to come up with like, you know, 150, 200 like places that needed something to happen. But again, I started that because I didn't know how to understand like where things needed to get done without looking at the entire community. And if I had a rubric, I still had to look at the entire community and see where things fit into where. But I don't disagree that maybe a rubric might help now and might be something that will help us and fit under the definition of what a quick build program is.
Can I talk about my experience with rubrics and stuff for projects?
Yes, please.
So for the county, we had one, that was, when I first got here, that was very much kind of what you're doing, like a vibe, kind of focused rubric, and we had, it wasn't
I
all
don't think
vibes.
he was saying.
It wasn't all vibes, but it was
saying it's not vibes.
It's not vibes, it was based on smart scale, but a lot of it, we were assigning value based on what we felt made sense for that project. So it's like from 1 to 10, we're like safety, we think it's a 7. But that was us making kind of like it's a 7 out of 10 for safety. Like it needs a lot of safety stuff, but it was hard to justify why it was not an 8 or why it was not a 6. And we went to the board with a draft proposal for like 150 projects. We were getting hammered on basically being like, why we're choosing 8 instead of 7 here? Like, why is a little bit of that. So I've spent the last 2 years a little bit on and off trying to create a rubric that's much more away from that 1 to 10 scale with like 5 different things. It's more just kind of like a yes, no, where it's like, we do have pedestrian crashes here. Yes, no, kind of like to try to streamline
Like a
it.
decision tree.
Literally, yeah, decision tree almost, because yeah, if you because we had 150 projects and the maximum score you could get was 60, you had 6 different factors, 1 to 10. I don't think any project actually scored a perfect 60, and we've had a ton of projects that were all like they're all at like 45 points because they're just about the same, where they, the numbers add up differently. So
Your scale was too big.
the scale is too big. We kind of refine it. Making a rubric is really hard. It's insanely hard.
I don't know how to say this, but I think there's an element of like, we live in Charlottesville, this is a small community, and yes, we might be and hearing from, I've heard from people all over the city on my neighborhood walks and seeing them firsthand. And I mean, there's an element of going with Rose Hill neighborhood and seeing what works and doesn't work at Rose Hill and making sure that that input gets added into this program. I'll say right now though, I've got friends who live on the corner of St. Clair and Bellevue, and if you look at Street View, they've been complaining for years about people speeding. And if you look at that corridor, you will just see the tire marks on that asphalt, and I don't know how to put that into a rubric.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's something that you all have told us, or Ben has mentioned numerous times, where there's like the feeling of safety.
Perceived.
Which is the feedback. That's
And that's the feedback, and that's the thing you can't, your engineer's not gonna tell you.
We're trying to be proactive rather than reactive. I mean, this whole urgent transportation project was reactive in its nature because of the fatality on Elliott, but all of the projects that we're coming up with are proactive. So there's it's just like when I was fighting for the leading pedestrian intervals, and it's like, oh, well, by the numbers, by the rubric, by the VDOT rubric, we don't have, X number of children crossing here to justify programming this light for a leading pedestrian interval. It's like it needs to have like X number of children, and like, well,
If you build it, they will come.
we're altering the traffic pattern for the ambulance when the child gets hit by the car to let the ambulance through. Why don't we alter the traffic pattern when there's one child?
Right.
So like.
Or maybe there's a reason there's no children.
Right, and so it becomes this situation where like. One, you come up with a rubric, it's 200 boxes to check. For each intersection, because every intersection is so wildly different. And then the rubric itself becomes something that you have to maintain and update and do that as well. So, which is what you're doing.
Yeah, it's hard to get it better.
I think I want to move us on, since we're over time, but I appreciate Jen's comment about the rubric. We've acknowledged that there are a lot of problems with the rubric, and it wasn't appropriate to, you didn't have time to do it this time. Perhaps it's still worth looking into, it just has to be really good rubric and maybe.
I want to push past wants to say one more thing, push past the conversation of the actual rubric itself.
Yeah.
I think what Jen was saying was the rubric would be helpful as a way to communicate to the public how we're coming up with this. It might not have to be an actual rubric, but I do agree with Jen that it would be great to have just an easy, clean, maybe automatic way to communicate to
And you
people
can use
outside the
check
city
marks, you
about
don't
what
have
we're
to.
doing.
Jen noted that it would help with consistency and continuity as well, which I think.
I think that 4 months ago, we as team, staff. We were not on the same page of what that rubric would look like. Having gone through this process, I think we could come up with a rubric that future staff or future iterations could like maybe work through this process in that manner. I think that I learned a lot about what our public work traffic engineering folks are willing and not willing to do, if that makes sense.
Thank you, that was really good. Next item is bike month. Today is the first day of bike month. And we have a lot's going on. Peter and Tommy have things to talk about. If it makes sense to combine the next item, Bike Seaville as well, then feel free to do that. We have 25 minutes for both of those, so feel free to use the time as you wish.
Yeah, just posted a bunch of stuff on the social medias a couple hours ago. So this weekend kicks off a lot. Today is the first bikes month thing. It's on the VPAC meeting is on the bingo card. So you guys can check off that bingo box.
Where's our bingo card?
They're printed off in my I can get you one whenever.
Thank you.
Tomorrow is the first Friday After 5 Bike Valet. We have a fair amount of people who signed up for tomorrow to help out, which is great. If you signed up and I said, you don't have to, Deb, you're more than welcome to still come and help me out. I know you're on the hook for the other Fridays. You signed up for all of them, so that's great.
Not the last one.
Not the last one, okay. So I think I do need some help on some of the other ones if people are so interested. And then for Saturdays, we have our group rides that are scheduled at 9 o'clock at the farmers market. I'm excited to partner with Parks and Rec for the future. We weren't able to kind of get things squared away for this month, but I think a lot of good conversations were had on how we can partner on a regular group ride with Parks and Rec on what are now our quiet routes through Charlottesville. All of this can be found on the Bike Seaville website, which is live as of April 19th. Thanks to Meredith. And at that, what's that?
We like the logo.
Yeah, awesome design, yeah.
So happy.
We like the logo.
All of you were very helpful in that process, so pat yourselves on the back.
I'm on there, dude. You can put my picture on there.
It's a great picture there.
I know, it was.
Any events you want to highlight in particular?
Well, the big one is this Sunday. It's National Ride a Bike Day. So we have the Family Bike Day event, which, you know, in terms of planning is like, I'm very proud of. There's a lot to like about this event. The weather does not look great, unfortunately. But we have free bike helmets. We'll have bikes there. We have a pump track that has gotten a lot of good like publicity and helped us in a lot of different ways. In fact, I was out on a run with some prolific folks and I just overheard like a group of guys talking about the pump track. And I was like, oh, how do you like that? I love it. It's really cool. Traffic garden, safety check, DJ, food trucks, guided ride over the triangle trails. So we moved it, this is our first time doing it in McIntyre and partnering with Parks and Rec, so I think like this is for sure the mechanism moving forward. Even though it hasn't happened yet, but it's greatly increased the event's status. Parks and Rec also paid for a flyer to go home in everyone's backpack. Did you, I think maybe
It came home for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So-
It depends on the school.
Whoever made that happen, wasn't it?
That was Annie over in Parks and Rec, yeah, they just took care of it, they also paid for some other stuff.
Clarify, flyer for all.
Family bikes, just for,
You got
So
flyer.
we did organize a set of information to go home to families through like digital channels through CCS, so like the division sent a message and school principals.
So it's on Parent Square.
It's on Parent Square.
Should I read those messages?
So anyway, so we opted not to do a flyer this year because we were short. I got just had my time got hijacked and it was unclear too, like if the flyer itself was like key or if it was, you know, like there are these other information channels. So we decided to do a digital version and Amanda Corman at CCS was great and got on it right away and now.
Now there is a physical
No,
flyer.
there's a physical flyer, but it's still.
No,
for
that's
family
the
bike day.
flyer for Family Bike Day.
Yeah,
two
so a
things.
little bit different.
Yeah.
But part of what we were promoting through principals and through Parent Square was Family Bike Day. In addition to directing people to community bikes and the VEO access program, and the e-bike library.
When did you go out? Because I'm just looking at Parent Square and.
So it went out in the division-wide update,
not
Oh,
for
and
the
that
school.
long news
and
cycle.
then it went to the Walker families from the principal message.
What else later?
I want to clarify because it's a lot to celebrate by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Digital stuff, advertising, Family Bike Day and community bikes and e-bike library and a bunch of resources sent out virtually through city school channels.
And information on walk, bike, and roll the school day.
And separately, the physical flyer went out. Are we advertising what and to whom?
For the flyer that went out?
Yeah.
Went up.
That's just for Family Bike Day, yeah, the flyer that,
And who got the flyer?
Is it a backpack flyer?
it was a backpack flyer.
It was a backpack flyer.
City,
So-
school, families.
It
is the answer to your question,
Like
Kate.
literally gets placed in there.
So someone's just like going, you know, all the backpacks.
Well, oftentimes, like,
There's like a Friday
they have a
folder.
folder. And so
Okay.
they're trying to get some.
So all through high school?
No,
I don't know,
Okay.
I don't know.
Details on invoice.
It's probably more geared towards elementary schools, I'd imagine.
It sounds.
Well, I will say yes, but the Albemarle County, or Albemarle High School mountain bike coach, is coming to lead the Triangle Trails, group ride with the CHS mountain bike coach. And hopefully several of the teenage riders,
Great.
as well. So, and then I think we're having an e-bike demo there as well, right?
Which event?
Family Bike Day.
How's the weather looking?
Well, not great.
If that's what it takes to get some rain.
E-bikes are good in tornadoes, right?
Heavy.
They're heavy.
That's awesome.
And tomorrow is the cruiser ride.
From Endeavor.
You Fridays after 5. Through town?
Yeah, I think it sounds like the route may take a more quiet
Okay.
route, than it did last year, which was down West Main.
Yeah.
I think that last year they had a little bit more support from us. And this year that might just be Natalie.
And I'm leaving early.
And you're leaving, well, you'll get
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Ting and then you'll turn around and go to the train.
Months ago, I had a plan to go out of town and then weeks ago, I promised Tommy I would be on this ride. And then the plans to go out of town shifted, and I was like, the only reason why he's probably not gonna be mad at me is because now I'm taking the train. So.
I'll go with you, Natalie. Yeah,
What?
I'll go with you tomorrow. I'll just have to leave right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go.
Okay, great. And Jen's gonna be there too, I believe.
She
Jen
apparently.
is trying to swap with James.
Never mind.
There instead of Jen.
Okay, great.
You know, I don't know if it's still on the call, but I think running for office might want to be at bike month events. And, big good impression. It's a big voting block.
That's why Jen is not doing the.
Jen
right
is gonna
because she's
be at the
being
same.
at Fridays up to 5.
Because there will be a ton of CCS families there because it's the opening for Art Connections. And it's right after that. But Jen's, I mean, she's got the bike. Let's hope she's got the bike. Things on it.
Do you want to include the question there?
Yeah, so Kevin, it can be canceled because of weather. If it's, dangerous, windy, thunderstorms, lightning and so forth, it definitely be canceled. If, the pump track is dangerous or the skate park is dangerous, I think we're gonna cancel as well. So I don't, and if it's dangerous, I don't think that there's gonna be a whole lot of people who are gonna come out anyway. So it is what it is, unfortunately, in that regard.
And it won't be rescheduled.
No, it won't be rescheduled. I mean, what I'm trying to do with the bike month is trying to find ways to build more sustainable bike program throughout the entire year. So that includes like the guided bike rides, and on May 22nd, the bike repair clinic at Carver Rec Center. By working with Parks and Rec, but this event is just gonna be a one-off, so it is what it is.
If you reschedule, you set back, you exhaust your staff for your future events, and hopefully we'll soon be in a place where something disappearing from the calendar doesn't mean no more bike events.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was just confirming.
Yeah.
Or we have it, the family bike day is multiple times a year. So
Totally.
the spring one gets canceled, but there's the fall one.
Yeah, my understanding is that there might be a bike event at Tonsler on Saturday, May 31st with West Bellamy. As part of the Tonsler project, so. Well, there might be an opportunity in a few weeks to like collaborate with that as well, so we'll see.
Is the pump track staying?
The Parks Master Plan calls for a punch track on McIntyre Park.
A permanent one?
Yeah, so, and Azalea Park for that matter. But it may not stay at that location. What I'll probably push for is some sort of permanent structure, and it's undecided where, but there might be a better location.
The tonsil would be good.
Trust me. Trust me.
Let me give you another opinion.
No, that's a good opinion though. That's there was a world in which I was going to try to move the pump track over to Tonsler for the Tonsler May 31st event, but after setting it up and going through that process, it's not like the easiest thing
Not
in
as
the world.
portable.
It's modular, it's not portable.
Yeah. That day was fun, but it also beat me up, so.
It's gotta get the best.
I see people using it all the time, every time we've ridden past.
Have you used it?
What is Meredith saying? You just wanna talk, Meredith?
Oh, yeah, there was a question in the chat of where will you notify people if Family Bike Day is canceled? And I said I can pre-make you a social graphic you can post, and I can update the calendar event to say canceled. And I was asking for other ideas. And then
We have a
Kevin's-
Facebook event.
So the schools can send it out too.
The Facebook event post, and we can just cancel that as well.
So you've mentioned needing a bit more help with Fridays after 5 Bike Valley. Is there anything else you would like feedback folks to show up for during bike route specifically?
I think that like the biggest thing might be to focus on the last event of the month, which is the group ride on the 31st. I think that's the one I think that we're not quite sure what we're gonna do for that yet, but I'm pointing people to that date as a place to do stuff. I should say, maybe even ask another thing. So for the group rides on Saturday, I also asked a group of folks to maybe set up just a tent to table at the farmer's market for bike month. So that could be a BPAC thing. And from 9 to 1, so it's a 4-hour shift at the farmer's market. And I've got some people who said they were willing to do that, but not like a ton. So that's
Every Saturday or just
in month, and yeah, Saturday, every Saturday in May. And then I've got a couple bike shops that are gonna show up from 11 to 1 to have a couple e-bikes that people can do an e-bike demo there as well. But
So there's a lot else going on. I mean, so like May 10th.
That's right.
The county is doing its own bike rodeo that's gonna also have, what else are you doing?
There'll be e-bike stuff in the bike rodeo. That's what police does. They have like, they set up cones and stuff, and they have helmets, stuff like that.
Is that the one in Darntown?
Yes.
Yeah, Wolfrey Bridge.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We're gonna have another one. I don't know if we're gonna have a rodeo, but we're gonna have another demo at Crow's Day on the 15th, as part of the Green Notch Trail event. So we're gonna just be in the back of the school with like, hey, came here for bike stuff, we're at a bike.
So
That's our
so
mission.
that's week 2, then week 3 is bike to work week. And so we're doing our usual table on West Main on Friday, but UVA is also hosting a bike appreciation station on Tuesday at the AFC. And I think that's going to be super cool because it's going to be a little bit more UVA student engagement than what we usually get. So that's the Tuesday of the week, so the 13th. Then on the Thursday, they're doing another station at the hospital. And again, folks who have been to that one have seen that's pretty hopping, and it's amazing to see the number of bikes parked at the hospital. It's quite encouraging. So check those things out. Walk, bike, and roll to school day. That's like a whole thing, but it's sort of a lead your own adventure for that, which that's fine. That is what it is. And then Tommy also mentioned the closing ride. So each of the 4 weeks, there's multiple events. CBC is last thing, Charlottesville Bike Club for the first time stepping in and actually adding like hospitality to a couple of their events. So, and making them walk up friendly, so that will be cool. Check the calendar for those. So.
Sorry, who did I interrupt?
I just had a quick question about the May 31st, right? Are you talking about the morning one or is there another one?
no, the morning one. So we have 4 loops that are part of the quiet routes. So the first 4 Saturdays in May, we'll just check off each loop, for each ride. But that leaves for the 5th Saturday kind of an option to maybe do a combination or do something different or whatever. And then Meredith is waiting on me to make a decision so she can make a social media graphic, and I keep not giving her direction. So yeah.
Question about that and graphics. For the monthly walks, do we want to incorporate that into the same visual language we're using for the new website, new graphics? Because right now they kind of are standalone. I mean, they match the Ravenna Trail loops, like those are.
Oh, you talking about like the flyers and so forth?
Yeah.
For 2026, we'll
Okay.
do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
I mean, we have the Walk Seaville branding done, so if you want that.
Okay.
you can
Well,
use it.
I don't want to do that because there's other. There's a bunch of other things I want to do with that. Yeah, we'll talk later about it.
I would not add more work, like
Yeah.
relaunch.
Yeah, and that.
So Waxeville's having its launch in, January. So let's not make that a little like sidecar to bike month. Yeah.
I had a question that might be a bike month question, it might not. It's a totally selfish question, but it's possible others might be interested. If someone wanted this month or any month to try out mountain biking, but they don't have a mountain bike, what could they do?
Take a ride bike on the trails.
They go to Bike Seville and you can find out where you can rent a bike. And
You can rent mountain bikes from some of the bike shops. Meredith's probably doing that.
Blue Ridge Cycling rents
now. What's that, Matthew?
Blue Ridge Cycling rents mountain bikes.
Yeah, Blue Ridge Cycling does, and actually Meredith has posted on.
Those are on the Bike Seville website now.
Correct, yeah, there's a place where it says borrow, rent a bike, and it shows you where you can, so Endeavor, you can also rent bikes from them as well. Including 2 e-bikes technically from Endeavor, I think. But, yeah.
It's a great investment. I mean, it's like whatever, $70. You could correct me, Matthew, but maybe $70 to rent a bike for a day or an overnight return the next day. But if you're about to spend $1,000 for a bike, that trial's a great investment.
It's $100 now, but it'll come off the price of the bike that you buy within like 3 months.
And if you know somebody, there's plenty of people willing to let you borrow a bike.
Alright.
And if you just join the Kamiq email list, every day people are selling bikes.
There's also like beginner rides that happen at Pretty Creek that are advertised through the Kamiq email list.
And it's also on our calendar, Bike Seville calendar. Go ahead, James.
And Family Bike Day has some mountain.
We'll have the safe routes to school bikes at Family Bike Day. Well, they're like 24-inch. Yeah, I mean like. Yeah.
Well, the elementary school kids.
Yeah.
Anything else on Bike Seville?
Yeah, and there's also the business challenge, so sign up for that.
So, Peter, you mentioned about Bike Seville, website's up, it's looking great. Now we need to kind of fill it with things. You mentioned maybe asking us to kind of asynchronously think about what to fill it with. Is that right?
I mean, this is my idea. I don't own Bike Seville, but like if you all want to spend the next month, like just like having a Google Doc coming up with resources that should go there, gather everything that's needed for it.
Well, so that conversation is happening, but I welcome more ideas for content and or help providing that content. We've had a couple meetings with the Charlottesville's comms team. We've said, hey, these are some ideas. Meredith has actually gotten some video for some stuff. Today, I was supposed to run the lottery for the e-bike subsidy program and I didn't. So I'll do that first thing in the morning, hopefully. And going out and getting some vlogs from the people who got bikes last round and hearing from them will be part of that content as well.
Have you been reminding the people who haven't used their voucher yet?
Oh, yes.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they ran out. Yeah, I even made a couple phone calls. There's definitely some people who did not use their voucher. I can tell you guys here in a sec.
Do those go into the next round?
Not the next round, it's
like-
the following rounds that we can roll this into, because they have technically until May 7th to use their voucher.
So in the third quarter will be like 30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your updates at 12 have.
Yeah, but there's been I've seen a couple invoices come through my email the past couple of days, so.
That's about half, right? Oh, about a 25 plus people.
Yeah, so right now, there's still 13 people who have not used their voucher. If the spreadsheet is up to date, and two of them I know aren't gonna use their voucher. So,
Do you know why?
well, there's one person who and his wife are federal employees and they don't feel super comfortable buying anything right now.
Avaton. No, nobody sells Avatons.
No, we need a dealer for that.
Yeah.
Have you been pressuring them to? I'll tell you about it later.
Okay, I think that's everything.
Did he leave?
Peter,
Oh, I had an update for him.
We're going, you can still give the update and it'll be included in the minutes. We have announcements of the business. Yeah.
I think James sent the AC 44 draft transportation chapter plan. We had a chance to read it. We did. Any main comments? Don't tell me I'll be sad. We're going to PC on May 6th and then board on the 23rd. No, 21st, something.
Put it in the email.
Okay, yeah, but if you I know we're city residents, but if you want to also talk about what things the county can do, we're always happy to have people. So be mean, please.
James and I, and maybe Tommy, are gonna be at the
Yeah.
Spring Neighborhood Association meeting on March 4th, May 14th.
I'm supposed to go to. Talk to Kristen, her husband.
They invited everybody. What is it, like the mall or something? Like the food court at the mall there? It's like,
Well, I would offer that if anyone knows Spring people who care about bike and pedestrian infrastructure in their neighborhood, to encourage them to attend. We are positioning this as a listening session. We want to hear from folks in the neighborhood about their concerns. Yeah. We can report back.
I probably am not gonna go to that, but we can definitely provide you the list of projects that are on the urgent transportation ahead of the May 19th.
Great.
City council.
Yeah, and I think whatever advocacy opportunities are available for people, yeah, that let's just confirm.
So that's the Wednesday before when you said they'll be posted, right? So
Yeah.
I guess if you could make sure we get them at least a few hours before we go, so we chance to see them before we respond to questions about it.
Yeah,
We can talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll see that. And if anyone knows of another neighborhood that wants to hear from feedback or wants to be heard by feedback.
We already been to Fikeville. You talked to Fikeville.
We were at Fikeville almost a year ago last June, and I don't know that there's any meaningful update for Fikeville on
Maybe-
Cherry Avenue.
It'd be good to go to talk about the event that Wes is gonna be hosting later this month.
It could be an email also. We should hear about it, but.
Well, before I go back to Fikeville, I would like to say, here's an update on the massive concerns you shared with us a year ago, and I don't know if there is one.
Here's what's coming for Cherry.
Because Cherry Avenue, if it's not identified as a priority, it really should be.
We can wait and see.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, that would be my ideal next step if I had.
Are we going around?
No, it just looked like you might want to jump in with.
I have the new stuff, no.
Yeah, new stuff.
Okay. Monday, Livable Seville is hosting a webinar. Let me pull up.
Next Monday.
Monday the 12th.
Yeah, not this Monday.
Yes, sorry. Monday the 12th at 6:30, Livable Seville is hosting a webinar. You can go on the website and sign up for it. It is with Anna Zebarts, who wrote the book When Driving is Not an Option. She herself has vision issues, so she doesn't drive and works in the space about transportation, and so has put together a book about people who are non-drivers by choice, people who are involuntary non-drivers, and specifically in Washington State where she lives, but widely applicable information. So she will be speaking and I will be there as well.
You're in conversation.
Yeah.
You're not just attending, you're in conversation.
Yes. So that's gonna be happening. And something that I wanted to ask before I get up there in front of people is, are there anything any things in particular that this group would like me to make a point about? I mean, I know our general work is all good, but are there key things that you're like, do not forget this? Yes.
How effective things like, RFB or something like that, the kind of the push stuff, like, does that make them feel confident? Because if they're relying on that to see better when they're crossing, does it work?
You mean like ask for feedback on if it's helpful?
Yeah, kind of like, it's like all the stuff, all the rapid flashing beacons, hawk signals, the push button, we have flashing lights, different places. Are those
You mean just for people who are visually impaired or for everyone who's out there?
all pedestrians? All pedestrians. I mean, for visually impaired specifically, but I think all pedestrians, just to see like if you're relying on that, do you feel comfortable relying? Because that's our industry standard. And I hope it works, and I have to assume it works, but I don't know if people just feel good with that all the time.
Would a follow-up question be the comparative between that and the Hawk?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
Hawk would be great.
Actually, that's super
Let's see
nifty here.
more.
So here's the.
This is a half-baked question in my head, it just kind of popped out, but I'm trying to articulate it well.
I don't want to add more work to staff, so maybe it goes to livable Seville. But it would be good to have the local picture, which you might not have, so like, how many people of work age cannot drive in Charlottesville? Like the number is gonna be like 5 digits between Charlottesville and Albemarle. There'll be 5 digits of people that cannot drive and yet have to work.
And
You mean
the
don't-
desk
can't
at South First
qualify to
Street
drive.
was a.
Well, because they're.
Cannot or do not?
Cannot, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, because of impairment or suspended license or
Can't afford a car.
no papers or no car, et cetera.
Not eligible.
Yeah, it's a little project. The livable Seville people are capable of doing that work, so it might be
And
better for them than
and
city staff.
teenagers,
For example, yes.
like kids who are ready to be independent, but they can't drive.
And then raise your hand if grandpa ought to get off the road. But yes,
I was late to my first day of work ever because I couldn't drive. And my parents were supposed to drive me, forgot that I had work and were gone. And I was stuck. I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah.
Can people email you
Mhm.
if they have other ideas?
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how the conversation will be steered, but if there's like highlights about like the work that we're doing here, anything that you want me to announce, not just inquire.
Yeah, let's think about it. Let's think about it.
When driving is not an option, you can get from Island Press.
Ben has a copy, I think he just
Yeah.
finished it up.
There's definitely copies going around. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll snap one.
I wanted to make a quick announcement of sorts as well, that I've noticed in the last few weeks, a whole bunch more leading pedestrian signals.
Yes.
Have just gone in. I wanted to give kudos, I asked Ben about that, and he thinks it was Caleb's doing, the new traffic engineer, so.
I know it was on the
Thank you.
to-do list. I
Thank you
wasn't sure
to
like
him.
when that was gonna happen.
Yeah, it's been happening, that's great.
Yeah.
Stop signing those like landfills.
It's on,
That's part of
it's
the
on the list that went to
People aren't
public
following
works
them.
already, and then they started kind of taking them off. That is one thing that's on the transportation list, citywide.
Cool. Easy thing you can do.
that would be a cool video for us to.
One more before we adjourn?
Question.
Leading pedestrian.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
Cause that also finally shows like, yes, your government does stuff. You may not notice, but here's an important thing.
Yeah,
That's
super
a good-
city's good. Yeah.
Mhm.
One more thing?
Yes, and this is maybe a question for Tommy, it might be more of a question for Ben, but I know he's not here. And kind of a soliciting feedback of what everybody thinks about going from dockless Veo to docked station.
Oh.
Is that an agenda item for another BPAC meeting?
Maybe. But
Well,
it's not- there's no action on it right now. I was just
Right.
kind of like, what
Yeah.
are people think?
Right. Do you mean just downtown at UVA or in general?
In general.
I mean, I can't use it as dogs.
I think there are a lot of people who can't use it if it's docked. Yeah,
There are
there
percent
was,
teenagers.
there, I think, and this is just the beginning of a larger conversation. There was a moment where VO, a lot of their scooters were ending up in like a public housing community in town, and they were like, oh, this is a problem, so let's put a geofence around it so they can't put the scooters in there anymore. And we were like, well, no, you can't. Like, you can't just like wall red line a public housing. And so, I mean, you could put a dock down there.
Right. So you
But
would need a lot of docks is the thing.
you would need a lot of docks and it'd have to be like, I think, like I said, just the beginning of a larger conversation. So it would just be like downtown or anything like that. So I think there would have to be like tons and tons and tons of research about where this should go, and why this should go there. And like, that's what I'm doing.
The reason why I bring it up is because we have people who are don't love the scooters, even as amazing as they are for micromobility purposes. And we're not at the point where it's like we have to change it or get rid of it, but if that point ever happens, I'm just curious about the feasibility of doing a dock further.
So I think we should talk about the next meeting. I will say that they have an extended permit till July 1st. I just sent Ben my comments for changing their current permit. And we have a meeting next week about that before we hand over our comments to them. I'll say right now that there is a lot of stuff in the current permit that they just don't do. And that we need to hold them more accountable for it. And I'm trying to make it easier on me to hold them more accountable. While we have a permit that we want signed on July 1st, I feel like we can work with Theo to reduce stress over the summer months before we head back into fall in UVA. And we can talk a little bit about like the future of the program, so on and so forth. But one of the things right now, and we presented at council about this, is getting them to create a strategy for virtual parking hubs within all Charlottesville. So that would require, it wouldn't be geofenced, but it would say this is where you're supposed to park.
So not like docks without the infrastructure of docks.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't, yeah, right now, I'm pushing for them to have an increase on staff to help manage the program. They haven't had the staff.
And that's why it's been falling on you and that's not your job.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't like that. Sorry,
Which
as a
part?
taxpayer,
So-
that our city staff is like doing the work of a private corporation.
Well, I don't know that I'm doing a
Well, but
ton,
like,
but
we have to
What are
pay
you
our.
talking about? We're doing the work of a private corporation by doing the e-bike subsidy. We do all kinds of work for private corporations.
But they should pay to make money in our community.
well, they are
should
paying.
pay-
They are.
But they should, but,
The talk for now is looking at the future.
yes, sorry.
I've got it for a reason.
So thinking about it,
It doesn't
though,
necessarily have to be next meeting, just.
It should be though, because
Of
I've been
course.
putting, for the past 4 months, everyone keeps telling
Conversate
me,
it over.
you need to do this, you need to do that, and I say they have a temporary extension. We're going to fund everything to July 1st, so things need to change July 1st.
Yeah,
Okay,
good.
next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and like they need the staff to manage their program, not our staff to manage their program.
But I need the tools to manage them.
Right.
Top rank, top rank.
Cause I'm like, you spend so much in your.
Do it, Jane, full rank.
And if part of what you have to do is manage this business for them. And there's like other things that serve all of us better that are not happening, I don't think that's a good use of staff time.
so one thing I'll point out about, the
Sorry,
meeting.
we're officially,
Don't let senior citizens decide how the micro mobility program works. talk to people who are under.
All right, everybody online, I'm gonna end recording. Meredith, I'll follow up with you tomorrow about some other stuff. And everybody else, thanks for coming.
It's parking on the sidewalks.
See you on Saturday.